The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Mates Radio. Well, yesterday was all about Derby International Airport. We'll find out more when that meeting takes place next Monday at Derby Parish Hall, but the consensus was it's a contingency just in case Ronaldsway sinks into the sea. But interesting to think on what could possibly happen. I mentioned that emergency passports are back, so if you're in that situation, you're okay. Ian dropped a note in just to say, regarding net zero, I've asked this question on numerous occasions. What's the island's contribution to the world's carbon output? While we're at it, how much did the TT carbon offset this year? Haven't heard much about that. That was the proud boast of the government. Was it a throwaway comment? But what was the TT's carbon offset and how was it done? Seemed to be a lot of throwaway comments with the net zero debate. Be interesting next week. We're talking net zero next Wednesday. John Curtis is back. Do you remember Net Zero Matrix and Curtis Associates? And Lamara Crane, head of the Green Party, leader of the Green Party on the Isle of Man, will be in to talk about where we are, really. I mean, there's so much to talk about, what it is and which way we're heading. How come commissioners are able to send warnings, as WhatsApp 134? Commissioners are sending warnings and can ultimately prosecute private property owners for overgrown ragwort. But they fail to send letters to the same private house owners who can have tons of rubbish on their drive and gardens, all the dilapidated houses that we see on streets, and they do absolutely nothing, but they get into a real lather over ragwort. And look out, there are numerous email scanners. I've got a comment in regarding numerous email scammers concerning email accounts trying to look like Manx Telecom. I personally have received one of these. I don't know whether you have, but it's always best if you click on the email address, and one that just says account communication that got sent to me comes out as jhayes@tpg.com.au. So nothing to do with Manx Telecom, and it's to ManxNet customers just saying, according to our database, the latest version of your account has not been applied to your account, blah, 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 blah. Click on here and everything will be sorted. And of course it won't be, because you'll get millions of tons of spam and possibly they'll have access to you. So do watch out for that. It's a Manx Telecom spoof email headed account communication. And interesting, communication is spelt wrongly, but there again. So watch out for it, and if you are in any doubt, call Manx Telecom or just click on the email address and you'll see it's nothing to do with Manx Telecom. Just be aware of that. And Louise is first with us today. Hello, Louise.
Hello. So I just want to bring up the topic of the vaccine damage payment scheme.
Right.
So I am confirmed injured and disabled from the COVID jab, AstraZeneca. So when you are, you have to apply to something called the BDPS. So after a year of waiting, I received a result of causation and disability found. So you'd think automatically you'd get your compensation. But even though causation and disability has been found, it's fixed at 60%.
60% of what?
You have to be classed as 60% disabled to get compensation, even if causation has been found.
Right.
So 98% of cases have to go to appeal. So I contacted the MHKs on this matter. Only one has said they will ask the question. But most of them, and the majority, have said they will not help me or others, as it's a UK policy. But this is the policy that the Isle of Man government sends you there to look at.
It is, and that's it, because the scheme's managed in the UK, isn't it? They've basically handed it over to the UK.
Yeah. So my question is, why is the Isle of Man government not looking into the VDPS and looking at helping those confirmed injured like myself, medically and financially, or even asking questions on it?
Where were you diagnosed? Who checked, what had happened and what was the problem, Louisa?
So I had anaphylaxis to the AstraZeneca, and they basically, so I applied to the VDPS on it, and then basically an independent medical assessor in the UK requests all your medical records, there's about 2,500 records that were requested of mine, and they came back with the conclusion, yes, causation and disability is found to be the case with AstraZeneca. So it's a lot of process to go through.
So let me get this straight. You didn't have an assessment on the Isle of Man. Basically, your records were sent from Manx Care to the UK, and they assessed it there.
Yeah, but you have to send your medical records off, and then they request even more records as well, the UK. How
do you feel about this, Louisa?
Really disappointed and angry, actually, because it's not just myself in this position, but there's a lot of people in this position that have applied to this scheme, and causation's been found, disability's been found, but it's like there's no sliding scale, or, it's got to be 60%, and if 98% of cases have to go to appeal, is it actually fit for purpose?
And why 60%? Any reason why they said 60%?
No, they just said 60% is the fixed scale.
So you've spoken to MHKs. Do you mind telling me which ones you've spoken to?
All of them, near enough.
And did you get any joy from any of them?
Only one said they will ask a question, but doesn't really hold much hope. And the majority said it's a UK matter.
So where would the compensation be paid from? Is that the UK, or would it come from the Isle of Man?
I think it would come from the UK, but I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs fully, because is it something that comes back to the UK, the Isle of Man, and they have to pay, or is it something that comes to, is it under the Isle of Man, UK? Sorry, but it's just. Yeah, it just doesn't seem fit for purpose, really.
Well, it sounds like a bit of a kick in the teeth.
It is a bit. It is a bit, because it's been 3 years of being really quite poorly.
Louisa, I'm sorry to hear about that. And if you get any joy, we've now taken some details, so we'll try and follow it this end just to see what's happening. If you get any response from any MHKs, then please get in touch, and we'd like to hear more.
I have had six, 7 emails back, but like I said, none of them have been open to looking into the VDPS.
All right. Lisa, I appreciate your call. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
That's Louisa. The VDPS she's talking about, the Vaccine Damage Payment Scheme. The Isle of Man's health authorities don't actually know how many Manx residents have applied for vaccine injury compensation. Laurie Hooper confirmed that Public Health and Manx Care don't hold or have access to information on the number of vaccine damage claims. It's managed directly, as Louisa said, by the VDPS, the Vaccine Damage Payment Scheme in the UK. And as Louisa said, she's found out you have to be 60% disabled because of this, although causation has been found in her case. There was, I'm sure, wasn't there a petition on the issue presented by, I think, was it last year at Tynwald Day last year? Manx Care confirmed it was assessing the need for a vaccine injury service. Do you know, it's hard to believe, really. It's now more than 4 years on from COVID. 4 years on. So, and still we have to sort this out. And also there's that the residents who were made to quarantine at the Comus Hotel in April and May of 2020. It was that far away. it's still hanging over us, really, in one way or another. David's with us now. Hello, David.
Hi, Andy. And today is White Rabbit, so it's the 1st of August. And do you know what that means?
It's Weed Day.
It's Weed Day, as far as I'm concerned. And could I just let the listeners know, when you're travelling around, even at Onken School, I couldn't believe it, but I've been in touch with them. There's a clutch of cushig growing by the lay-by where the kids get dropped off. And I've just asked them to deal with them. And you know what the answer was?
Go on.
Ring the DOI.
Oh, crikey.
So...
They couldn't send somebody out with a pair of rubber gloves on just to pull the darn things up.
Well, I just wondered whether they would give us permission to do it ourselves. And which brings me to a point where, how much would the community get involved if it was asked to do something? And if you looked, I sent you some pictures, hopefully.
I saw those, yeah, I saw them.
We have the old prison site, a massive clutch of cushig there, just growing, waiting to seed. And before people whinge about, it's a source of food, it's covered under the Weed Act, which certain issues have got to be done by the 1st of August. So who do we prosecute then when it's an actual government department?
And who do the prosecution? Is it something you report to the police? Is it a civil matter or a criminal matter, David?
No, it'll be a civil matter.
Right.
But I would assume so. Anyway, it wouldn't be a criminal matter on that. But it's just, you go down from Johnny Watson's Lane down to Tremode and down through there. The amount of cushigs lying over the pavements when people are walking past there is just unbelievable. And it just brought to mind is whether we should, and your listeners would bring it to bear, when we used to have the old gangs. Do you remember?
Oh, the direct labour.
Eastern area gang, the northern gang, the southern gang, the western gang, who knew where every year something happened all the time, regular as clockwork, year in, year out, something happened. The gullies were blocked, the weeds came out, and they got on with it. And I just wonder what people do think. And they may think I'm just whinging for the sake of it.
But hang on a minute, though. I mean, this isn't fit to eat. It's not something you can grab and eat, And if you handle it and then stick your fingers in the mouth, you're potentially going to be ill with this. So something could go terribly wrong with this.
Yeah. What we call is a health and safety issue, a health and safety warning, and we do something about it. And I'd love people to, if I'm saying I'm wrong or their particular area, it must be just not happening in Douglas and Onken and say Laxey, which I've had a look at Laxey. Oh, by the way, and the person sent me an email regarding the camper van at Lancaster Road in Douglas.
Yeah. They're
right. It's flat on its axle and something should be done about it, and he can't get any help. But that's for another day.
And that's but that's public road, isn't it? That's not a private road.
No. Lancaster Road it's right near the junction where the substation is, the back of the school there. It's down on its ankles, and quite rightly, the fellow that emailed me said to me, it's cheaper because they're older vehicles to just pay the 50 quid tax, just leave it on the road. Instead of getting it disposed of properly.
But why would anybody do that?
Well, and do you know the horse box? Remember the one last year I brought you up to show you the horse box?
Oh, by Onken Park.
Yep. Well, she's back, but she's now a motorhome. But I think she's a heavy goods vehicle.
Oh, God, Lord. All right. Thanks for that. Good to hear. 12:20 it is. This is let's come back to one of the recurrent topics on Mannin Line, abandoned vehicles, and whether people who've got knackered old cars or vans or motorhomes, and they simply can't be bothered to get rid of them, so they tax them. And if they're taxed and the parking is free and not restricted, they can leave them there for as long as they want. Now, surely that defeats common sense, doesn't it? Surely that defeats common sense. Would it be not time for DOI or somebody just to say, we'll have an amnesty? or we'll go and take them away from you and free up a few parking spaces right round the Isle of Man. We all know where they are. We all see them. They're the vehicles that have got moss growing underneath them or moss growing in the window rubbers. And nobody's touched them for years. It looks like a Banksy piece of artwork, and they're still there, and they get taxed because the owner simply can't be bothered to do anything about it. It's antisocial behaviour, really. Is it time for somebody just to put some common sense into it, free up some car parking spaces, and perhaps save them a few quid a year in road tax? Here's Wilf with us now. Hi, Wilf.
Hi, I'm sorry to come on at dinner time about what I'm talking about.
Oh, dear. I know what it's going to be.
Oh, do you now? Yeah. Right. Now, how did you know that?
Oh, go on. It's about sewage, isn't it?
That's it. That's it. Now, but the thing is, it's only my opinion, of course, right? I don't know if they've started at Peel yet or not, but of course everybody's so delighted that they're going to do Peel and all this, and then they're going to do Laxey. But I'm looking at the ways of doing these things, and well, it's just ridiculous the way I see it. No one has mentioned yet that they're going to do a proper sewage job and take the chemicals out. They're not going to do that. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the worst bit, because normal sewage was eaten with the fish, eaten with the seagulls and all that. Because they're an endangered species, by the way, because of this. I think they're starving. But anyway, that's beside the point. There is another way of doing this, as far as I'm concerned. Now, let's take Peel. Now, they're talking about the sewage works up above, up back of Peel, in some of the fields there, whatever they're going to do. Now, if they're going to do it the same as Ramsey, as far as I'm concerned, Ramsey is a failure for their sewage works, and that cost millions to do it. We drove last Sunday, thought, right, how can I run down to the Point of Air? Me and Stella was going past, and we only got near the sewage works. The stink was that bad. We thought somebody was spreading stuff on the fields, you know. But anyway, it was that bad. We were glad to get past it. Now, sometime, and of course it was shut on Sunday. So, but sometimes people get there to take their stuff to the community dump, which is alongside of it, and they've got to do the job quick and get away from it because the stink is so bad. But it's pumped up there from Ramsey. It's processed, supposed to be. Then the water freewheels back to Ramsey and out of the old sewer pipe. But the thing is, what's processed up there goes through a series of filters, and then it's put into tankers and took from there to Maryveg, which is just dried then, and then I believe it goes into the incinerator to get rid of it. But the thing is, my way of doing it, if necessary, you increase the size of the pipe, the outlet pipe, and all you do is make it longer. Take the likes of Peel, that goes right into the middle of the bay in Peel, inside the breakwater. I don't know what it would be a cost as against doing it my way or doing it the way they want to do it. But if you took the pipe out around the breakwater into the current, you would get no sewage on the beach. Job finished, and they could keep putting sewage through it if they wanted to.
And how much further out would it have to go?
Well, round the corner off the what's it called? It would be about, probably in Peel, probably twice as far as what it is now.
Right.
Ramsey was the same thing. I told them what to do there. They took no notice whatsoever. And actually, in Ramsey, there used to be is a Victorian outfit, which worked perfectly well. But we got too many people in Ramsey living in Ramsey. It couldn't cope. And there was a door on it and a float switch. Now, unknown to me, previous commissioners. I was in the commission at the time, but previous, and I didn't, because, well, they didn't tell me anything. But anyway, when we got too many, that's when they got the trouble, and that's when they decided to do the thing at Balladoo, because the sewage was coming in on the beach. They took the door off, and they took the float switch out, and the thing was designed to open on an outgoing tide, and it went north. When the tide is coming in, it comes south. That puts it on the beach. Now, I couldn't do anything else when he come in on the beach because the door was off. But the thing is, they done all this. You pump it up to Balladoo, they process it. What comes back is supposed to be water. It comes back, and that runs straight on the beach 24 hours a day because they never put the door back or the float switch. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a failure. All they had to do was, it was easy in Ramsey, lengthen the pipe. And you didn't need any of this process, none of it. It was gone out of the current and it's gone. And the seagulls and things, they could have what they wanted, and the fish could have what they wanted. Job done. So
as it is at the moment, if you like, the natural stuff gets filtered out, but they leave the chemicals in.
Right, all the chemicals are left in, and the one they're going to put in Laxey, the one they're going to peel, same sort of thing. They're high up above the town, doing these holding tanks and what have you, and well, I don't know how many people is living up above Laxey where this thing is. But if the smell is tremendous, desperate.
So they obviously ran out of strawberry flavouring because they normally use that.
Oh yes. That's if it's bad on the beach and it's bad up at the tip, then they put their own chemicals in, which of course can't be any good either. And that ends up on the beach, and then the beach is, as you say, it's smelling of strawberries then.
Have you got any cushug knocking around in Ramsey, by the way, Wilf?
Thousands, tons and tons of it. How much do you want?
Well, it's the Weed Act comes into force today, and you're supposed to get rid of cushug if it's on public land.
Yes, well, that'll only be... The commissioners will only get rid of it if it's on commissioners' land. Now, I'm not quite sure about the land on North Shore, which is the BMX track. I don't think we actually own that ground. If we do, then there's tons of it there once cutting. Right. But what it is at the moment on the BMX track is the BMX track people sort of backed out, and it's not getting used at the moment. The kids are only going on it by themselves. The thing, there's nobody looking after it or whatever. Otherwise, normally that would all be done at the people who run it.
Right. Okay.
But there's nobody to run it as a BMX track at the moment. And it's not the commissioners to run it, you see.
Okay. All right. Wilf, I appreciate it. Thanks for calling today.
Okay.
Cheers now. It's 29 minutes past 12. Well, we'll wait to see what happens with the new sewage systems. When they happen, that is. There's also an Apple gift card scam knocking around by email, says messenger 068. They impersonate people known to you and ask for your help. Why can't Manx Telecom block these scam emails on their system? It's their system, namely ManxNet, and if it's somebody implying that it's them, surely they can do something about it. I'm sick to death with having to delete these, says Paul. Just be aware, the Manx Telecom one uses Manx Telecom typeface. It looks at first glance like a Manx Telecom until you spot inevitably there are spelling errors in it, and just click on the email address and you'll see it's not from them. But do not click on anything that they ask you to click on. Surely, if ManxCare provided it and promoted the vaccine, surely they should be held responsible for it, says Steve. Well, they've outsourced it to the UK, the vaccine injury scheme, Steve. Compensation should be paid for by the drugs companies if anybody got COVID jab damages, says Coops. Putting an airport back in Derby is insane, says Manx Wills. Words, by the way. It's funded by other corporations. Will it be for travel? Will it be an immigration gateway? Well, I think yesterday we bottomed out the fact that it's a contingency, so they're planning for something at Joe, but it'll probably never happen. A, because why would you when we've got an airport already? And B, revert to answer number one, we haven't got the money. The Derby plan is a dangerous grift, says Will, from the government, who obviously are being told what to do. By whom, I wonder? Maybe the huge wind turbines planted at sea or on land will interfere with the flight path to Ballasalla. Good point, really. Is Erie staying in the flight path? There are no penalties for weeds anymore, says Marie. This is why the countryside looks neglected. The farmers are laughing all the way to the bank. They're being paid for all these weeds. Is that right? And 068 tells me that horses develop serious liver disease if they eat cushug. It's a very nasty plant. And Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. That with the ragwort, etc., it is a problem.
Yeah.
But this is what's happened with the idea, the green scene, or the councillors, the government and everything, are going to rewilding. Well, this is not rewilding. As I mentioned the other day, the word neglect has been removed from the dictionary and substituted with rewilding. It's cost-effective or cost-saving.
What I can't understand is whether, people who talk about wilding, do they not understand there are harmful weeds? There are harmful things. I mean, it's all very well growing, nice grass and some nice flowers and what have you, but they have consequences, and poisonous weeds that they're allowing to grow, surely it's not on. They're culpable, surely.
Well, this is where I say duty of care. The corporation, the council here in Douglas, if you drive around, have done several rewilding. This is where they've rotivated and put wildflowers in. And they're all in flower now. And down by the power station early on in the year, there was a big bed of lupins, and they were beautiful. And the birds will eat the seeds of them. They're not poisonous. Well, they are poisonous to humans. They don't do you any good. But by the same token, they're nothing like the ragwort. And the thistle is more nuisance value. But again, the thistle, in its natural environment, will feed the smaller birds. They'll eat the seeds out of them. Unfortunately, it's nature the way it is, but the government and the councils and commissioners and everything have all jumped on the bandwagon, and the place is rapidly deteriorating. But it can be rectified quite easily. When they knocked the cottages down at the White O, the words were again, we're going to let it rewild. And that's an area where it's off the road. And again, even in the winter, as the seeds drop, the birds and the other, field mice or whatever it is, they'll eat them. And that's what keeps nature going. It's a big round-robin cycle, But neglect is a totally different thing, and that's what a lot of this instance is now. But what it's coming on for, just listening about the scams, the emails, I've had dozens of them coming through supposedly from Manx Telecom, but I got one the other day, and it was from, a colleague, shall I say, and it said, do you shop on Amazon? Blah, 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 just a 2-line thing, and it had his address. When I went into it, it was his address. So what it looks like, and I've known this in the past for 2 other people, somebody has hacked into the address book in his computer and has sent out, under his name, a large number of emails. And I rang up another friend who is part of the circle, and he had exactly the same email. So obviously somebody had hacked in. So anybody sees something coming from what would allegedly or purportedly be from a friend, just be careful when you open it if it doesn't seem right. And that's coming on the island. And again, it says link into this, and once again, they're getting all your addresses. Once they get into your addresses, then that goes out worldwide again. So it's just something to be wary of. And that was only this week.
So there's nothing. I just wonder whether ManxNet or Manx Telecom can do anything on. Surely they've got systems that'll track these sort of things.
Probably have, but I've known this is the 3rd instance now of 3 different people who over the years have had their address books on their computers, email address books, hacked and taken over. And one chap who lived in Laxey, the thing was sending out, I'm stuck, I need money and this, that and the other. And obviously I know he didn't, because he's a reasonably wealthy man and very shrewd. But that is the sort of thing that people are going to fall for. So all I say is just be very careful. An email can pop through and you assume it's from a friend of yours, but read it carefully before you do anything with it. That's, as I say, these people, these scammers, they're very, very clever. And they can... There's one in particular, if you look at the one that's coming supposedly from Manx Telecom, where it says Isle of Man, the I, capital I, in the Isle of Man is a number 1.
Yeah.
Not a letter I. These are simple things that they're using a keyboard, but they don't think about it when they're writing, as long as somebody can... come back to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Howard. Thanks for being with us today.
Take care.
Good to hear from you. And I got a message in from Ivan, who said it's interesting when you get Douglas Corporation Council, City Council, whatever they're called, introducing wildflowers. I thought wildflowers, says Ivan, the meaning of wildflowers is not intentionally seeded or planted. They're wild. So surely anything that's planted, by definition, can't be wild because it's been planted. Because otherwise, if you leave something to wild, you just let it grow. You don't plant anything. Interesting point of view. So I just wonder what you think about this, whether the fact that stuff is being left to wild, and if then you get poisonous weeds growing on it, who's liable for this? Who have we got? Ian, who just said, considering the fact that our government is actively inviting the rest of the world to live on this gem of God's earth under what Ian calls a delusional Ponzi scheme, that's economic migration, can they guarantee that Manx public will have no heartbreaking incidents like what happened in Southport yesterday? I think you're adding 2 and 2 are making 16, Ian, but never mind. My guess is they don't know who's on the Isle of Man. How do you know that, Ian? How do you know that the government don't know who's in the Isle of Man? Because anybody who's here, if they work, have to be registered. And they'll have NI, and they'll have tax records, and their employer will have records of them. And if somebody's living here, then surely the people they live will know who they are. We hear from time to time people saying there are people on the Isle of Man that we don't know about. But the Isle of Man is a village. Everybody knows everybody. And if they don't know that person, they know somebody who knows that person. So I don't know where this comes from, saying that there are people on the Isle of Man that we don't know about. If somebody is working and has a job, then they will be on the system. Consequently, the government, the authorities will know who the people are. If they bring a family, those people will be registered, obviously with doctors, with the National Health Service. Particularly if they're receiving benefits, they'll be known about it. So, interesting. But I mean, if you know more than we do, Ian, if you've got actual, information about this, evidence rather than your own opinion, then that's fine, Ian. If the TT was to start next week, I wonder if the Cushag will be neglected then, says John the firefighter. What's the point of investing in a huge airport if everybody's supposed to be reducing air travel to keep in line with the net zero thing, says Nick. Nick calls it a scam. Could it be to enable the UN troops and equipment to quickly access the Isle of Man when we stop complying with unelected officials' ideas? I'm serious, says Nick. He's serious. Thanks, Ian, for your comment. Information, Ian, not just opinion. That'd be great if you could. I appreciate it. It's nice that you get in touch, but please, if you have anything to say, send me the information. It's Mannin Line at manxradio.com. There's also an Apple gift card scam. Lots of people talking about the Apple gift card scam. If you got information about that, forward it. Wildflowers, rewilding is for the country. Neat and tidy is for the towns, says Liz. Thanks also to Paul, who just said, I hope Ramsey commissioners are going to sort out their council house gardens in Bircham Avenue. They're all overgrown and full of cushug. So look after your own properties first, says Paul. Thank you for that. The problems with overgrown hedges and unkept pathways in towns is down to Phil Gaughan. Well, Phil is many things. He's not omnipotent. So, thank you, Francis. Always somebody else's fault, isn't it? Some time ago, government promoted freedom to flourish, says texter 313. It's G on 313. The only success seems to be the freedom to flourish is with the weeds and overgrown paths and the verges as well. Brian tells me, book any farmers who've not cut the cushug and thistles by the 1st of August. This was done every year, says Brian. Is that right? Wilf makes a good point regarding the non-treatment of chemicals in bathing areas. IRBCs are second-rate, says Eric. The Manx Utilities new chair, Tim Crookall, should say why they're reluctant to connect onto the Iris system in Oncombe. Perhaps they could say that the network in Douglas needs sorting out, so South Douglas is pumped by a Middle River pipeline, which is it's there already as per the original design, leaving the prom pumps for North Douglas and Oncombe. A bit of honesty will go a long way to restoring public confidence regarding the removal of sewage. Then members could have a sensible debate and help the MUA get the work done sensibly and properly as originally designed. Ignoring the pipeline pump away option at every avenue isn't helping the MUA gain trust with people who have some understanding of the situation. We need to help and provide the MUA with public support for this work. Tim Crookall, says Eric, I think is letting down his Peel constituency and residents of Laxey. Connected to the Iris system. These are bathing areas, says Eric. Well, it's long been a vexed question. So, who's going to get rid of if it's Weed Day today, if the Weed Act now comes into force and the 1st of August is when the ragwort has got to be got rid of, who's going to do this? So don't look at me.
Hi everyone, Ben Birchall here. Just want to wish Manx Radio a happy 60th birthday.
You get more than you think, but all that you need when you
shop local with EVF.
Because your local EVF filling station isn't just a place for fuel, it's where you can get delicious food to go, chilled drinks, wines and beers, barbecue and summer essentials, from ice creams to surfboards, plus a great range of local products. Ellen Van In Fuels. Fill up, fuel up and get all you need to go. Open till late.
Shop local with EVF.
Discover Bathline, the new name in bathrooms at Haldane Fisher. Visit their brand new bathroom and tiles showroom in Douglas for a stunning range of bathroom styles and designs. Or get inspired online at bathline-bathrooms.im. Whether traditional or contemporary, Bathline's dedicated in-house bathroom designers will bring your dream bathroom to life. Bathline at Haldane Fisher, designed for living.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
This weekend, come and enjoy the Ramsey Fest Big Weekend. There's something for everyone, with Friday night 60s disco, then a day celebrating Radio Caroline's 60th anniversary, including live music and bouncy castles in the Morag Park from 2 p.m. on Saturday. On Sunday, the fun in the Morag continues, with Masons in the Park Fun Day, including more live music and bouncy castles from 1 p.m. More details at What's on Ramsey on Facebook. Brought to you by Ramsey Town Commissioners Domestic Event Fund and supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
Today at 5:30, Shachley. We're kind of regretting we didn't book another week just to stay here in Peel.
We would love it. See you next year.
We were looking for amazing things to do this summer, and we're so happy we're here.
A great opportunity to experience the music and the dance where it belongs in the Isle of Man.
Oh, it's beautiful. I think just all positive things really all around, we have to say.
You can hear more from recent visitors for Chroniach today at 5:30 in Shachley.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Look at that time. It's 14 minutes before 1. A note in from Keith, who just said, the state of some of the paths around the Isle of Man I find quite depressing. I had some friends over a couple of weeks ago who love walking, go many places in England and in Scotland. They go walking. They love walking. And I had to keep apologising for the state of the paths on the Isle of Man, particularly the Radnor-Follen in certain places, supposed to be a landmark path. Really, what are we going to do about it? And Keith also sent me in an article which says that spending time in green spaces has in recent years been confirmed by scientists to have a cheering effect, reducing levels of depression and anxiety. It's often said, isn't it? Go out for a walk. But there's a whole body of research now that suggests that it helps us by slowing down our perception of time. Did you know this? One example is that people perceived a walk in the countryside as taking longer than a walk of the same length in a town. And people who spend time amid greenery estimate that they have spent a longer time there than if they were in, say, a built-up area. This is from Carleton University in Canada. Keith sent me this. It's a research paper called Time Grows on Trees, and it found that a walk in the park felt slower in nature than in man-made settings, as well as improved mood and decreased stress. Very interesting point. They wrote in the Journal of Environmental Psychology saying when you're trying to make the most of your time, spending it in a pleasant activity in nature may not only increase psychological health in a number of ways, but also provide the illusion of having spent more time enjoying the activity than you actually did. Isn't that interesting? And Keith said, if only my friends had been able to spend longer when they were walking round the Isle of Man instead of getting scratched to heavens when they were walking through some of the paths. Is it time to... I noticed, by the way, the Scouts have been out and about doing, helping with some of the paths as well. So it maybe it's time for people power, the civilian army, to get underway. I mentioned we're talking net zero. It's next Wednesday, the 7th of August. Busy next week because Wednesday it's the Net Zero show with John Curtis and Lamara Crane. But on Friday we're live at the Royal Show. Knockalo with a panel of people, including Finlay MacLeod's going to be there, boss of the Creamery. Also, Bill Dale from Beach Buddies, Scott Gallagher, the chief exec of DEFA, will be there, and there'll be a few more people along just to talk, chew the fat really about what's happening at the Royal Show and in nature and in agriculture as well. So that's a week on Friday, and next Wednesday, Net Zero Energy and Renewables with John Curtis and Lamara Crane. We're just trying to make sense of everything that we get bombarded with all the time. We've got onshore wind, possibly, offshore wind, possibly, solar panels still around, heat pumps, hydroelectric. Do you remember they were talking, when I was talking to Dave Quirk, he said there's a possibility you basically hollow out a hill, make a big reservoir and pump it up. It has happened in other places. Certainly they do that a lot in Switzerland. It's going to be geothermal, tidal power. What do we do? And we've got target dates, 2030, 2035 and 2050. So next Wednesday, you got something to say, have a chat with John Curtis. He's in the business. I mean, he makes a living out of it about this and assessing net zero requirements and achievements and what have you. And the leader of the Manx Green Party, the Isle of Man Green Party, Lamara Crane's going to be on as well. So that's next Wednesday, net zero energy and renewables, and then a week tomorrow live at the Royal Show. Interesting to hear. There's a message in from Norman who said, how's that campaign to use the Manx pound notes going on? Every time I now go into the bank and they know me personally and they get the Manx pound notes ready for me. I'm doing my bit to keep Manx pound notes in circulation. Regarding scams, warn people, I've just been a victim. Amazon link and Yaris. I've informed the bank, but had to make special arrangements to get into the bank to see a human being, as the phone line was AI, and I spent hours getting nowhere with it. We have to have banks with people for these reasons, says Will. Will, I think that's a forlorn hope. I don't think the banks are going to be taking on more people than they are at the moment. Any truth in the rumour, says Charles, that Derby is going to be a super cruise ship terminal? You never know. Could happen. They could dig in, couldn't they? Seriously, though, what's happening with the proposed wind and solar farm at the old Andreas airfield? Is that still on? I'm informed, reliably informed, Charles, that the Andreas project is on track at the moment, and as soon as there's something to say, we'll find out about it. So it's not been pushed to one side. It is, I've been informed, is in the pipeline, shall we say. Could it be that the excessive weeds can be attributed to so much wet weather this year, says Janie? The public-spirited person who cuts verges and paths on Marine Drive puts the DOI to shame, says John. Is there a public-spirited person? Don't tell the DOI, they might prosecute them for doing that. If only we could do that, just get a group of people who want to do it. I don't know about you, but I see some of these paths overgrown, and if only somebody would do it. Of course, once you start tidying something up, it gets relatively easy to do, doesn't it? We were walking to our local park at Andreas with our grandchildren. My wife had to walk on the road a lot of the time simply because of overgrown hedges. Kenny on 214. Well, that surely shouldn't be. I mean, it may sound picky, but it's not, because these little things all add up. If hedges aren't getting cut, if these things aren't getting trimmed, then what do we do? We should put a cash bounty on Cushug. Oh, crikey. Cash for weight. And get the kids off school, get out there, make some money, get rid of the problem. A cash bounty on Cushug. Make some money out of it. I see. Well, it may work. You never know, do you? This coming Friday, I just want to tell you there is a memorial service scheduled to remember the victims of the Summerland Fire. This year sees the 51st anniversary of the tragedy which claimed the lives of 50 people. Well, there's a group called Justice for Summerland, and Tina Brennan is from there. And this is Tina Brennan talking about the 51st anniversary of the tragedy of Summerland.
It's important because, not just because I watched that fire when I was 19 from the cliffs above it, but having realised that at the time of the 40th commemoration there was going to be a memorial put into the K Gardens, which have absolutely nothing to do with the Summerland site, and realising at the time that site was for sale, I thought that memorial really, it should be on the site and not down the road. And the reasons that it was put there, I believe, in my opinion, it was simply to detract attention away from the site so that it could be sold unimpacted by any tragedy. Obviously, if you're going to put a multi-purpose use facility on that site or anything like that, you don't want to have any connotation of tragedy where 50 people were killed on the site that you're about to buy and live on. So that's why I believe it was put down the road, and it should be on the site. So many of the survivors and their families who lost loved ones say, over all these years, we didn't know. We didn't know that people of the Isle of Man still remembered. I get that every year. They didn't know that we still have regrets about it and that we're sorry that everything that happened. We didn't know that you'd still thought about us in this way. And I want them to know that we do. And I want to show them that we haven't on this island. We have not forgotten this huge tragedy.
That's Tina Brennan, and that Summerland Fire 1 minute silence takes place on Friday the 2nd, takes place tomorrow on the 51st anniversary of the Summerland Fire. A minute silence to commemorate and remember the 50 people who died in the disaster at the Summerland site, Derby Castle, from 7 till 8. It is tomorrow. I'd like to ask Dr. Allinson about how the assisted dying bill can protect against human errors that occur. There are no medical professionals who are incapable of making mistakes. I've witnessed, says Margaret, at Noble's Hospital and in the community, incorrect predictions of life expectancy, misunderstanding of patients' wishes and mental capacity, inaccurate determination of pain levels, and the prescription of medication for the wrong patient. Medical staff are already under pressure, and asking them to take on this extra responsibility can only lead to the risk of more mistakes. Moreover, says Margaret, who'll take on the task of informing a family that their relative died unnecessarily? Well, the assisted dying bill debate rolls on.
This is Zoe Gillings-Breyer, Manx Olympic snowboard athlete. I wanted to wish Manx Radio a very happy 60th birthday.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
That's it, gotta go. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Mannin Line returns tomorrow. Open line through to 1. Remember, out of hours, get in touch. Email manninline@manxradio.com, or as you heard, the answer phone 682-631. Thanks also to Vinny, who's making his way to the Isle of Man this weekend for that special Radio Caroline North weekend. Myself and Ray Clark will be giving an illustrated evening on the two Radio Carolines, Radio Caroline South and Radio Caroline North. So hopefully we'll see you Saturday. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your 1st of August 2024. Sounds weird, doesn't it?
WINT. Radio Caroline North broadcasts from the MV Caroline, Ramsey Bay from 1964 to 1968. And across this weekend, Ramsey's back in the 60s with vintage vehicles, live 60s music, special trams and vintage bus tours. And this Saturday, an evening of the illustrated history of Caroline North and South with historians Andy Wint and Ray Clark, when the original Caroline Bell will be displayed. Tickets for the evening are £10, available at manxradio.com, and all proceeds go to support the Ross Revenge Dry Dock Appeal charity. The Caroline North weekend is this weekend with Radio Caroline, Live at Home and Manx Radio.